There is a quiet tragedy that walks beside most people every day. It's not poverty. It's not failure. It's not even pain. It's numbness, the slow, silent erosion of a life unlived. The quiet acceptance of a reality that was never meant to be permanent. The routine, the cycle, the invisible cage of obligation masquerading as responsibility. Wake up, commute, clock in, smile just enough to survive, do the job, collect the paycheck, pay the bills, repeat. And somewhere between your first alarm and your last sigh at night, you forget the fire, you forget the dream, you forget that life was never meant to be endured. It was meant to be created. You weren't born to pay bills. You were born to build something that lasts. To shape the hours of your life into something you're proud to hand back to the universe when it's over. To construct a life so intentional, so aligned, so undeniably yours, that even your silence becomes legacy. But it doesn't happen by accident. Because the world doesn't care about your dreams. It cares about your compliance, your ability to fit in, to show up, shut up, and not cause too much disruption. But disruption is what life is built on. Disruption is how revolutions start. Disruption is the sound purpose makes when it crashes into comfort. So if you feel restless, good. If you feel like there's more out there, you're right. If something inside you is screaming that this can't be all there is, listen to it, because that voice is truth. It's buried under years of bills and responsibilities and someday, but it's still alive. And it's not asking you to quit your job or abandon your obligations. It's asking you to wake up, to stop sleepwalking through your own existence, to stop trading your soul for security, to stop accepting a life designed by fear and start building one sculpted by vision. You are a builder, not just of structures, but of moments, of memories, of legacies, of meaning. But building requires clarity, and most people have none. They don't know what they want. They only know what they fear. They fear failure. They fear judgment. They fear being wrong, being alone, being broke, being seen. So they shrink, they settle, they surrender to the story that says, this is just how it is. But who wrote that story? Who decided your life ends at a paycheck and a weekend? Who convinced you that ambition was arrogance, that dreams were childish, that freedom was impossible? They did. The ones who stopped building, the ones who stopped believing, the ones who gave up, and now resent anyone who hasn't. But you don't have to join them. You can break the pattern. You can step off the hamster wheel and start walking a road with your name on it, one brick at a time, one intentional decision at a time. Because clarity is not something you find, it's something you build. It's built by saying no to things that don't align. It's built by slowing down long enough to ask, what actually matters to me? Not what the world says should matter, not what your parents hoped you'd chase, but what you, in the deepest, quietest part of your soul, were born to build. And once you see it, once you catch a glimpse of the life that could be, you'll never unsee it. That's the spark. That's where momentum begins. But clarity is only the first tool. The second is belief. Because once you know what to build, you have to believe that you can, that you're worthy of more than survival, that your past does not dictate your destiny, that your paycheck is not a measure of your potential. Belief isn't just mindset, it's muscle. It has to be trained. It has to be torn and rebuilt over and over again. Every time you show up when it's easier to quit, belief grows. Every time you invest in your future instead of your fears, belief strengthens. Every time you silence the voice that says, "Who do you think you are?" belief sharpens, because that voice, the one that doubts, will never go away. But it can be outworked. It can be drowned in discipline. It can be buried under so much action, so much intention, so much progress, that it becomes irrelevant. And once you've got belief, now you can build. Not just a life that looks good on the outside, but a life that feels right on the inside. A life that wakes you up in the morning with fire instead of dread. A life that gives more than it takes. A life that reflects who you are, not who the world told you to be. But don't confuse this with ease. Building anything worthwhile will cost you. It will cost your comfort, your old identity, the false friendships built on who you used to be, the late nights of distraction, the cheap highs of procrastination. But what you get in return is freedom. Not the kind sold in ads, not the kind promised by influencers, but the deep, quiet freedom of knowing, this life is mine. I built this. You want meaning? Build it. You want purpose? Lay the foundation. You want legacy? Pick up the hammer and start swinging, because no one's coming to build it for you. They're too busy trying to survive their own cage. But you weren't born to survive. You were born to create, to carve, to construct. You were born to build a life that leaves your fingerprints on time. You were born to build a life that leaves your fingerprints on time. Not to punch a clock until you die. Not to spend the best years of your energy trading your fire for just enough to keep the lights on. You were not designed to live only for Friday. You were not made to celebrate 2 weeks of freedom a year like it's some kind of victory. You were made to rise, to lead, to sculpt time into something sacred. But you must understand, vision is the architect. Without vision, you will build someone else's dream and call it a job. Without vision, you will confuse activity for purpose, busy for productive, comfortable for fulfilled. Vision is not a luxury, it is your map. And if you don't have a vision, life will assign you one, the lowest one it can. Wake up, work, watch TV, buy things, stay quiet, fit in, retire tired. And you'll call it normal because everyone else is doing it. But just because something is common doesn't mean it's right. Just because it's accepted doesn't mean it's aligned. You need a vision so clear that it becomes a filter for your time, your energy, your choices, your associations. You need a vision that scares your small self. One that doesn't fit on a resume. One that can't be measured in titles, trophies, or tax returns. Because real vision isn't about what you get. It's about what you become. And becoming someone powerful, someone principled, someone who stands for something, requires discipline. Not the kind they teach in school. Not rules and punishment, but the inner contract you write with yourself and refuse to break, no matter what. Discipline is building when you're tired, focusing when you're distracted, showing up when no one sees, doing the work when your feelings are irrelevant. Discipline is saying no, not just to the wrong things, but sometimes to the right things, because they aren't right now. It is the rejection of ease. It is the betrayal of the short term for the long term. It is the quiet, daily revolution that no one claps for, but everyone notices when the results show up. You want to build something that lasts? Then build discipline first. Build the habits, build the routines, build the identity of someone who doesn't flinch at hard things, of someone who doesn't need external praise to do internal work, of someone who doesn't chase motivation, but creates it through movement. Because every discipline feeds belief, and belief feeds momentum. And momentum moves mountains. And the moment you feel that shift where your life is no longer something happening to you, but something being built by you, that's when you realize this is what it's all for. This is what freedom actually looks like. Not the absence of struggle, but the presence of alignment, of knowing your energy is going where it's supposed to go, that your hours aren't being sold, they're being invested into your mission, your legacy, your one wild, sacred chance to make a mark. And don't let them lie to you. Legacy isn't reserved for the famous. Legacy is built in how you live, how you lead, how you love. It's in how you treat people who can't help you. It's in what your life whispers to others without saying a word. When you build with purpose, Even your presence becomes permission for others to rise. That's what it means to build a life, to become a living invitation for others to do the same. But you can't do that while settling. You can't do that while sleepwalking. You can't do that while clinging to the illusion of safety inside a system that was never built for your greatness. There will be moments when the world pushes you back into line, moments when doubt pulls up a chair, when people you love question your fire, when the life you're trying to leave behind tries to seduce you with its old comforts. But remember this: comfort is a cage with soft pillows. And the longer you stay in it, the harder it becomes to leave. But freedom is the price you pay for walking away. And freedom is earned through clarity, belief, discipline, and vision in motion. So ask yourself, what are you building? And more importantly, who are you building it for? Is it for the soul inside you screaming for meaning? Or for the version of you still afraid to be seen? Because you don't need another decade of waiting. You need a single decision, backed by relentless execution. A decision to build. Not someday, not when it's convenient, not when you have it all figured out. Now, here, with what you have, where you are. Because no one starts with a masterpiece. They start with a cornerstone. And today, this moment could be yours. This moment could be yours. And all it takes is a decision to lay the first stone, not for applause, not for perfection, but for integrity. Because integrity is where everything begins. Not the kind you show others, but the kind that happens in private, when no one's watching, when it's 5 a.m. and you could sleep in, when it's the end of a long day and you could check out. But you don't. You show up. You do the rep. You keep the promise, not because it's easy, but because it's yours. And in those small moments, something sacred starts to grow. Resilience. Not the Instagram version, not the quotes and captions and catchy buzzwords. I'm talking about the quiet, bone-deep resilience that carries you through when your bank account is low, your relationships are strained, your body is tired, and your dream looks like a distant speck on the horizon. The resilience to stand up when life hits you in the mouth, to try again when the last attempt broke your heart, to keep building when no one believes in the blueprint but you. Resilience is the soul's way of saying, I still remember who I am, even when the world doesn't. And when resilience meets gratitude, something powerful happens. Gratitude is not weakness. It's not softness. It's not passive optimism. Gratitude is warrior energy. It's the battle cry that says, I will not let what I lack blind me to what I have. It's how you keep perspective when progress feels slow. It's how you keep faith when the ground shakes. Gratitude is how builders keep building, brick by brick, even when the winds come, even when the storms threaten to level it all, even when the vision is still invisible to everyone else. Because what most people don't understand is that gratitude isn't the end of ambition. It's the fuel of it. It's not contentment that kills drive. It's comparison. And if you spend your life measuring your work against someone else's highlight reel, you'll lose the very thing you were here to build, your life, not theirs, not their version of success, yours. And that life, the one that's deeply, wildly, undeniably yours, will only be built when you stop chasing image and start chasing impact. So stop looking sideways, look inward, look forward, be grateful, be grounded, but be relentless. Gratitude without grit is shallow, but gratitude with grit, that's unbreakable. Because when you can look at your life and say, I'm not there yet, but thank God I'm not where I was, you've already won half the battle. That perspective is rare, and that perspective builds resilience. And resilience, my friend, builds results. Because life will test you. It will push back when you push forward. It will ask, do you really want this, or are you just interested? And if you're only interested, you'll quit. The first rejection, the first failure, the first sign it won't be easy, and you'll back down. But if you're committed, you'll rise, you'll adapt, you'll grind, you'll get resourceful, You'll knock, knock, knock until the door breaks open. Or you build a new one, because that's what builders do. They don't wait for access. They create it. They don't beg for permission. They earn their place through persistence. Think of Carnegie. Think of Disney. Think of Oprah, who was told she was unfit for television. Think of every giant who started small. They didn't have clearer paths. They had stronger convictions. And that conviction is built when you fall in love with the process. When the early mornings become sacred. When the repetition becomes rhythm. When the struggle becomes signal that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Because anything worth building will demand more from you than you thought you had. And in giving it, you'll discover what was always there. Strength, clarity, fire, calling. That's what makes this different from just working hard. It's not about hustle culture. It's about holy work. The kind of work that builds something that outlives you. The kind of work that your future self thanks you for. The kind of work that silences regret before it ever finds a voice. So keep building, not because it's easy, because it's worthy. Because life isn't about how fast you build, it's about how true you build. And the truest thing you'll ever create is the version of yourself who refused to settle. The version of yourself who refused to settle. That's the version history remembers. That's the version your children will tell stories about. That's the version who dies empty, not with regret, but with nothing left undone. You came here to build, not just routines, not just income, not just schedules and spreadsheets and retirement plans. You came here to build meaning, to craft a life so intentional, so fire-forged, so deeply aligned with who you are at your core, that every breath feels like legacy. Because deep down you already know, you were never meant to just make it. You were meant to move something, to shift something, to ignite something. You are not here to be a gear in someone else's machine. You are the architect of the future, your family's future, and the invisible web of lives you'll impact just by having the courage to live fully. And that means more than making ends meet. That means more than collecting achievements to feel alive. That means waking up and asking every single day, is this building something that will still matter when I'm gone? Because money fades. Titles fade, fame fades, but the impact you create by becoming the highest version of yourself, that stays. So stop waiting for the perfect time. There is no perfect time. There is only now. This moment, this breath, this window where you get to choose, will I shrink back into survival? Or will I rise and start building like my soul depends on it? Because it does. Build even when it hurts. Build when it's lonely. Build when the foundation cracks and the storms come and nothing is going your way. Build when you feel forgotten. Build when you feel behind. Build when you doubt, when you ache, when you wonder if it's even worth it. Build anyway. Because every brick laid in pain will be a pillar of strength one day. Every wall built in silence will echo with purpose when others walk through it. And every scar from the process? That's your signature. That's your proof. That's your legacy. You were born to build a life, not a job title, not a list of accomplishments, not a neatly packaged box of safety. A life. One that cracks open your potential. One that breaks you in all the right places so you can be rebuilt stronger. One that burns down the lie that good enough is all you deserve, and replaces it with fire so bright the world can't help but take notice. Because the truth is, there are only two types of people in this world. The ones who exist, and the ones who build. The ones who follow the script they were handed, and the ones who write their own. The ones who die with dreams still buried inside them, and the ones who die empty, because they gave it all away. Be the one who builds. Be the one who breaks the mold. Be the one who lives with so much intention, so much depth, so much fire, that your life becomes a lighthouse for those still lost in the fog. And when your final day comes, let the world say this about you. They didn't just make money. They made meaning. They didn't just show up. They showed us how it's done. They didn't just pay bills. They built a life.